Hello, it's Film Frenzy. I'm so sorry for the long absence, but I'm back with a new movie review after seeing 5 Feet Apart last night at a GoFobo early screening. It's a teen romance drama, and I'm very excited to talk about it today, with direction and visuals being my first category. I would say the direction and visuals in 5 Feet Apart was something that really just surpassed my expectations greatly, because I just kind of thought that maybe it would be like a B movie, like one of these like YA adaptations, or just one of these like cheesy teen romances where they're really just like low production value and they're only made for like the most open and just like non-critical audiences. But I was very impressed with this. I thought the direction was very well done, and the cinematography mostly was really excellent too. There were some fantastic shots in there that really just got your level of intrigue really up, because it's not just about dialogue and character development, but there's also a great visual component to this movie that I feel like lots of similar counterparts lack, and that really impressed me. Sure, there's going to be your regular cheesy romance shots, but overall, it does a really great job. The direction is just very clear, it's very nice, and some of these shots are just absolutely beautiful. The ones on the lake, even though it's not a great scene, which we'll get into later, they're beautiful shots. The ones on the rooftop are very nice. There's some really cool shots inside the hospital to make it just like look interesting, and I feel like they really use like the cinematography to enhance the plot of the film, and I love that. So it's getting a really excellent 4.5 out of 5 for direction and visuals. And my next category is acting and character development. For acting and character development, I think that 5 Feet Apart does an overall very solid job. The acting was really impressive. I talked before about the production value of the film, how it surprised me, and I kind of had a little bit of feeling about that it was going to be like that because of the two leads, Cole Sprouse and Haley Lou Richardson, who are very talented actors. I loved Cole Sprouse on Zack and Cody as a little kid. I hadn't really seen him in any like movies besides Big Daddy, but I knew he'd do a good job, and I've heard good things about him on Riverdale, while Haley Lou Richardson was phenomenal in Edge of 17, and she had a small part in Split, but she did good there too. And so since they got some high quality leads, I thought that this movie may be very well done in that regards, to actually feel like an A movie, and it really did because of that great acting. The supporting cast too was excellent. Moises Arias, I hope I pronounced his name right, probably didn't. He's a great actor. I really loved him in Kings of Summer. He's a very interesting just like type, and I think he's really cool. He does a great job in his role here. So do the supporting actors, like the nurses, the parents, everybody in the film does a really great job acting, and the chemistry between the leads is impeccable. It really sold me on the film, and without that, I feel like it would be a pretty poor movie, because I'll get into some harsh criticisms later, but the acting is one of the strongest points, along with the previously mentioned cinematography and direction. The acting was just really great, so believable, and really got you into the movie and feeling empathy with the characters. And while character development definitely had some drawbacks, there were some great positives too, particularly with the few leads. They were really well developed, fleshed out characters, completely believable, not one-dimensional or two-dimensional at all, but very multi-dimensional, and they had just very different aspects of themselves, and there was a lot of relatability, I thought, which was really impressive. It's often hard for these movies to do, and I was really impressed with that. I think the acting really helped just enhance the character development. And I thought they really did grow throughout the film, although sometimes there was a little bit of back and forth, which was unfortunate, which is kind of what happens with the plot, which I'll get into later. And then some of the side characters, I thought that they were just really trying to like overdevelop them in a way. This sounds kind of weird because usually I like character development, but I feel like they were just trying to make like an extra purpose, an extra backstory for all these different side characters that really was not necessary. Like, they should have some development, but they don't need to be to the point where it just feels like they're just here for this one purpose, and it becomes just very like formulaic in that regards. And I thought that was a little bit unfortunate because it just wasn't necessary, and it took away some time that could have been spent on the leads or just shed from the film completely, because I do think the film is a little bit bloated. So for the score for acting and character development, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. Superior acting and mostly great character development. My final and most important category contains the story elements of plot, pacing, script, and theme. And this is where things go south. I'm going to start off with plot, or should I say lack thereof, because there's very little plot in this film, and generally speaking, when a movie lacks like a core narrative and like a very solid story, 99 out of 100 times it's gonna fail. And this one pretty much did in that regards. I feel like the plot was really just, they both have cystic fibrosis, and they meet each other and they fall in love, and they're trying to just like still stay alive, and like they're dealing with like the imminent death that could happen from the disease, trying to stay alive and be in love with each other, and that's about it. There's not a ton here, and I feel like that really is unfortunate because it just makes the film feel so tedious, because there's a lot of back and forths in the film, which is really difficult to like handle as a viewer, because like I feel like there was just going to a lot of like comedic routes, and then they just really just all of a sudden get super dramatic and something big would happen and everybody's like, and it got to the point where when they're tugging and pushing and pulling at your emotions so much, you're just tired of it and you give up, and you don't have the same emotional response later on in the film as you would have if the film was just more tonally consistent and actually had a clear plot instead of just going back and forth and being very repetitive. Like, it just was really difficult to handle because I felt like there's so many times where there was an all is lost moment, and this kind of goes into pacing in that regards. Typical film pacing, about at the end of the second act, there's an all is lost moment, and it's like really just the biggest struggle of the film. They have to get out of it in the climax of the movie, and sure, there are obstacles earlier on, but they're not even close to the all's lost moment where everything just goes south. And I feel like with this one, there was so many moments of that I was just expecting it, and it became very tiresome, very predictable in many aspects throughout the film, and I thought that was really annoying. Plus that third act was just very just unlogical and just didn't really make sense. Like, I don't think it would work at all with the ice and stuff. I'm gonna get into spoilers here. Spoiler bar goes away. Spoilers are done. So with that ice scene, it was just really silly how like, so it was funny. I thought that she like laughs and pretends like she fell in the ice. It was almost like the movie was being a little irreverent about its really inconsistent tone. But then when she actually falls in the ice and she almost dies, that was just, I just had enough right there, because I was like, you can't just keep on going back and forth. Pick a tone, have a couple big struggles, because then it just makes the other struggles not seem as important and as difficult when you have so damn many of them. And then the ending, how they rush her into surgery for the lung transplant right after just being rescued out of like this really freezing cold water with cystic fibrosis, may I add. Like, it just doesn't really make sense. And I thought that was just very all over the place throughout the first two acts of the film. It was just kind of very like, nothing really much was happening. They just introduced the romance. It was a very believable one, I'll give them that. I thought it was a great progressing romance, but it didn't really go anywhere. And then the third act just descends into chaos. So the plot is very weak. Spoiler is done. And then with the script, this is actually probably the most positive I'm going to talk about this story elements section. And I thought that overall it was very solid. The jokes weren't a laugh out loud hilarious, but they were clever and they were just like fun jokes. Like, they weren't supposed to be amazing, and there's some of them were supposed to be kind of goofy, but in like a likable way. And I thought that was really nice. I liked the jokes. The humor was good in this movie, and lots of dramatic lines were very good. But then other times it was just so cheesy and just ridiculous lines. And I felt like it was tethering back and forth of being like a really just A-list film that was very high caliber, really well done film that's commenting on these themes about like disease, limited lifespan, like living your life to the fullest and taking chances, and then sometimes just being really cheesy and cliche and being just a made-for-TV teen romance film, which was just unfortunate because it had so much potential, and I truly think this film could have been excellent, but it lacks in many of these story element categories, which is unfortunate. And finally, I want to talk about theme, which I briefly just mentioned a little bit, and it was basically just about, you know, taking chances and living your life to the fullest. And of course, the example, who is the lead character's sister, Abby, who, spoiler right here, she dies before the film starts. It's referenced a lot in the movie, and I thought it was really just cliche character about living your life to the fullest, and she was just like a skydiver and rock climbing and stuff. That's just like the most cliche, adventurous person ever. I thought that was just really unfortunate because they're trying to have a deep conversation. I can't help but think, come on, you could have thought of something a little bit more original. Anyway, spoilers done. I found that just the themes were very muddled too because of this back and forth, and it was just got confusing to the point I was like, it does want us to make sure we live our lives to the fullest, right? Because it was sometimes teaching us that we should be like cautious, but then like other way around, and it was just back and forth and just messed with my head a little bit. Same with the tone in that regards. So I think the theme is nice, but it's a very predictable theme. Going into the movie, I figured, oh, the theme has to be about this, and it was. Although I feel like it would have just been better if they did just a clear-cut, predictable theme route that was just very clear, like what the theme was, even if it was very generic, because that's better than just being really confusing and muddled. So this category, sadly, I'm only going to give a 2 out of 5. And since this is the most important category, that means it's going to bring down the overall score major. So yes, the acting was phenomenal, the character development was mostly very sound, and I really liked the cinematography and the direction. They really impressed me very much. I really liked the production value of the film, and I thought the script oftentimes was really good. There's some great dialogue in there, and it's a sweet theme, and it has a very upbeat ending that should like really resonate with viewers, but it doesn't as much as it could have because of this constant teetering back and forth of the tone and just really messing with you and not really picking a solid one and not balancing the comedy and dramatic elements very well at all, and really lacking an excellent plot. So sadly, I'll be giving this movie a 2.5 out of 5. Very average, but there is a saving grace because I'm going to be giving it a thumbs up. So it still gets a thumbs up from me. I'm really curious to see how it fares on Rotten Tomatoes once the critics come in. I'm guessing about in the middle with 50%. I was really hoping it would be like the Love, Simon of the year, where it looked like it was going to be a trashy like teen film, but it ended up being an excellent movie that was really one of my favorites of 2018. Sadly, this is not the case, although in some regards, this movie is excellent, but in others, it is abysmal. It's really all over the place with the different categories, which is kind of strange. You don't see that super often, and it felt like if they had just excelled a little bit more at lots of these other categories, it could have been an amazing movie, Love, Simon level. So, thank you for watching. Curious to hear your guys' thoughts on 5 Feet Apart in the comment section down below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more awesome film videos, many more coming soon, including a Captain Marvel review. So, see you guys later from Film Frenzy. Bye.